Hi, this is David Taylor, and I'm joined today by Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, for a discussion on building environmental sustainability into the business and the type of leadership needed. Satya, first, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, David, for having me. It's a real pleasure.
It's an honor. Satya, at P&G, we talk a lot about being a force for good and a force for growth. The basic idea is that doing good needs to lead to driving growth, and driving growth enables us to do more good, kind of creating a virtuous circle. To do this, we've made a deliberate choice for citizenship, which includes, in our definition, environmental sustainability, to be built into how we operate our business. And you've made similar statements in the past, saying that addressing climate change is good for the planet and good for Microsoft. Can you talk about that and how Microsoft builds sustainability into your business and the role technology plays in sustainability?
No, it's a fantastic question. And also the way you said it, David, is the way we think about it. In fact, one of the definitions of the social purpose of a corporation that I love is by Colin Mayer, who's an economist at Oxford, where he talks about the purpose of a company is to create profitable solutions to the challenges of people and planet. And the key word being, one, profitable, and then the challenges of people and planet. So in some sense, I always say that if the world around us is doing well, one community, one country at a time, and Microsoft is doing well, that's a great equation. That's a long-term stable equation. And to your point, the planet is the most finite resource we have. So in some sense, for the future of any company and our society and our way of life, we need to protect the planet. And so we've made our commitments around sustainability, both with obviously being carbon negative by 2030, water positive, zero waste. And in fact, we have an ambition by 2050, David, to in fact go back to the very foundation of Microsoft in 1975 and recapture even all the carbon. So it's easy, quite frankly, or not easy, I should say. It is at least possible for us because of the industry we grew up in. Although today, with our data center footprint, we are big users of energy. So it all starts with us really making sure that we are making that energy transition fast and really tracking to these milestones that we now have put out there. In fact, we just reported our first year of progress, and it was good progress. In the first year, we reduced actually our carbon footprint by 6%, around 700,000 metric tons. We also issued probably the biggest RFP where we learned a lot, quite frankly, about even how to buy, the removal of carbon, because the marketplace there is still not evolved. It's not transparent. So the RFP we created essentially open sourced it all. We got all the responses. We're creating some standardization. And off of that, we selected, I think, 20 plus projects. Bought 1.1 or so metric tons of carbon removal. So we're doing everything on our own side to just make sure that we're reducing our carbon and being transparent in how we're going about it. But the key thing and also we've created a fund, David, which is investing, because I think ultimately, as Bill Gates would always tell me, look, this is going to require real breakthroughs. And we will have to put risk capital towards those breakthroughs. So whether it is carbon recapture or other novel ideas that people are looking at, we are absolutely putting, again, our $1 billion fund to use in that context. So to me, taking that multi-pronged approach across the spectrum is what it's going to take. And to me, also all the tools, because one thing I've realized, David, is it's so hard to keep track of all of this, right? You don't have an ERP system for tracking essentially your carbon footprint and the insights and the predictive power. So we're creating, in fact, all the software tools, starting with dashboards and then that database systems underneath it. And we're now sharing that with all the customers as well, whom we partner with. So in some sense, it's a full 360-degree view and commitment to the most finite resource that we have, which is our planet.
I agree, and I very much appreciate both the tools that you're developing and making them available, because technologies can play a huge role in this. And it's interesting, each company is going to have to play its own unique role based on the industry it's in. One of the interesting ones we're working on is a digital watermark on all packaging so that when it can later be sorted, so that at least you can capture, recycle, and then give plastic many, many lives. we developed a technology, one of our innovators did, that can convert contaminated polypropylene to a much higher value, which again then generates the revenue to pay for the collection to make sure it doesn't go into the environment. Instead, it has many uses. But to your point, the technology, to the extent we share and can scale it, we can make a huge difference. My second question is about the future of work. It's one we've talked about many times. We've talked about on the Business Council, which Microsoft has spent a lot of time on. If you think about the pandemic and how a lot of work has shifted to remote, what do you think the future of work looks like, and what is the impact specifically on sustainability?
The nature of how work gets done, I think, is going through a fairly big structural change, David, because coming back from this pandemic, of course, this was a tail event. I know that you use a lot of Teams even internally. We were able to somehow figure out, in spite of all the constraints, how to keep economic activity and productivity up. But we're going to come out of this and we will have to adjust back to the new normal, but it's going to have a couple of structural changes, I believe. First is around how people collaborate. Work will require people to work together before meetings, during meetings, and after meetings, which brings people together synchronously and asynchronously. Then I would say the other piece is, I'm sure in P&G you experienced this, where we've hired a lot of people even during this pandemic, and we've had interns come in, and all of the onboarding, all of that knowledge capital and social capital had to be developed for people who are fundamentally joining a company that's all working virtually. So that means learning is changed. So inside of Teams itself, a lot of, say, Microsoft's own learning content, and even the context, because you learn from content, but you also learn from other people. Who are the other experts I should be in touch with in order to become better at my task or my work? So those are all happening in the context of the workflow tools. And lastly, David, the thing that I think is a real crisis in some sense, and as I say, the joke is that I don't know whether I'm working from home or I'm sleeping at work. And given that, I think we now all need to have a broader definition of productivity, right, which is about well-being, and well-being and learning and productivity all have to come, or output all have to come together. And so data can be helpful. So for managers, inside of Microsoft, we have a management framework called Model Coach Care. And the last part on care, and we see it, managers who care and are data-driven, where they know that the people can't be burnt out, and that makes a huge difference. So those are the structural changes. And from a sustainability perspective, for me, is when work adjusts in new ways, we're also going to look at the carbon footprint, waste, water, all of the pieces within the context of this new structure of how we will work. And so that's how we are thinking about it going forward, David.
I think it's very powerful. Many of the comments you've made, certainly we have benefited from. It's interesting that you named it Teams. It's not video conferencing, it's Teams, which brings people together. One of the comments that you made also that I think is powerful for solving some of these tough problems, including the sustainability problems, is the access to resources now. The level's been lowered. Everybody can access resources in a very personal way, which I think is very powerful to getting to solutions that will address big challenges. Now, the last question, given the time we have, is what kind of leadership is needed to navigate all these changes in sustainability, the future of work, as we all try to transform our organization to empower and unleash all of the human capacity in our fabulous organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. When it comes to leadership, I always go back to three attributes that both I look for in leaders, and then I hold a mirror to myself. Leaders, by definition, have this uncanny ability to bring clarity to situations where confusion prevails, right? I mean, leaders don't go into a confusing situation and create more confusion. They create clarity. They, create a course of action that brings people together. And second thing is leaders are people who create energy, right? If somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I'm great, my team is great, and everybody else sucks, that's not leadership. No. Leadership is people who absolutely can bring all the constituents, both inside and outside the company, to achieve something that's far greater than anything that anyone can achieve. And that's, again, innate in leaders. But the last thing I perhaps this pandemic has shown in particular is leaders don't wait for perfect weather to do their best work. It's in fact, when you're in a crisis, when you have an over-constrained problem. I mean, none of us could have predicted a pandemic. The next tail event is not going to be a pandemic, but leaders figure out a way forward, and even in an over-constrained world, how to drive success. And to me, these three attributes, David, bringing clarity, driving energy, and success, are what, at least, as I said, I hold myself to as the bar every day. And we're not perfect, but every day we can strive to be better at these three things.
Certainly. Thank you very much. I think they're all very powerful. And I want to recognize you for what you've done, both in sharing your learning and leading Microsoft to be a leader in sustainability. We take inspiration for what you've done and what your company's done and the very ambitious goals that you've set. It was interesting when we were talking with Bill Gates one time, which he says, we don't know how to solve all the problems, but together we have the technology and know how to figure out how to solve all the problems we need to address these very, very major sustainability challenges. And you and your company are some of the leaders out there, and you specifically. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you sharing your insights and thoughts with us today at P&G. Take care.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for the partnership, and look forward to being in touch.
Thank you.